Listen up. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast belong solely to the podcast participants, and not to any participant's employer, organization, committee, or other group or individual. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. You know, for fun. So lighten up and enjoy. Oh, Stomping Jen, episode 94.
Oh my God, can you believe it?
The Soft Serve podcast.
94.
I am Sawtooth Frank, you are Stomping Jen. This is the Soft Serve podcast, and on this episode 94, we have a very special guest. A dear friend, known only to the world as Jay. He is going to tell us about the very interesting work he does in public access television. He works for a municipality in Massachusetts, but he is also going to tell us an important story about a health scare he had regarding a heart attack, believe it or not.
Goodness.
And I think there's a lot for us to talk about and learn from that too. So I'm excited. This is kind of a dual subject show. We don't usually do multiple subjects, Stomping Jen, but this one will be.
Excellent.
We ready to go?
Yep.
All right, let's do it.
The Soft Serve Podcast.
Creamy, delicious ideas without the creepy truck. Oh, Stomping Jen and Jay. Welcome to episode 94. Say hello, Jay.
Hi guys, Stomping Jen
Hi.
and Sawtooth Frank. Thank you
Oh,
for having me.
yeah. Thank you for being here. I talked over you already. Steamrolling
Great
you.
start.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes. Well, thank you for joining us. We're really excited to have you come on the show and talk to us about these two subjects, which I think are really important, actually.
Definitely.
The first one being cable access TV that many towns and municipalities provide. Are municipalities and towns the same thing?
I think a municipality covers towns and cities.
It does, okay. So we'll just say municipalities. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. That's what Jay does professionally. And then I want to talk a little bit with Jay about a health scare he had recently involving a heart attack. Now, full disclosure, we're personal friends. That's how I know about this heart attack, right?
Yes.
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 So,
But I'm excited because I was the one who had the idea to invite Jay.
how dare you take any credit for anything on this podcast?
Stomping
Because-
Jen reached out to me first.
Yes, because I am very interested in this topic, actually.
Okay.
Not the heart attack. I mean, I'm interested to hear more about your heart attack, but
Yeah.
specifically, I'm interested in learning about municipality media.
Okay. And that's because you are involved in a town municipality. Everybody knows that.
Yes.
And you're
This is common knowledge.
somewhat involved with the business end of that, I think. So,
Yeah.
all right. So I think a good place to start might be with
Letting him introduce himself.
letting him introduce himself. Yes, and the reason I didn't do that was because we weren't going to talk about the specific town, but and
Oh.
we're not saying Jay's last name. So there's
Yeah.
I think, little he might actually be able to say in terms of an introduction, Stomping Jen.
Oh. Well, why don't we let him decide?
All right, should we let him decide? All right, you can decide, Jay. Please go ahead. Say whatever you would like about yourself.
Well, thanks guys. So I've been involved in community media for it's about 10 years now. I kind of got my start. It was right after I went back to school for my animation degree, which is about 2008. And then kind of after graduating, I was like, well, what am I going to do with this now? So, you know, I had kind of looked around town just trying to find some stuff to do to be able to use some of those skills. And I came across the local media station in town.
Hmm.
And they were looking for someone to run an animation camp.
Oh, cool.
So I offered my services as a volunteer, and did a camp with kids for about 2 weeks, and really enjoyed it. And they had me, asked me if I wanted to do some more because a lot of it is volunteer based.
Hmm.
So I started just doing working on local TV shows, crew stuff, um, you know, just trying to help out with computer stuff because I had that background as well.
Hmm.
And, eventually, the opportunity came up to join a small station, and I applied for the job, and it's kind of really how I got my start in everything, and I've been doing it ever since. So,
Yeah. Volunteering.
So
Local level
Yep,
volunteering
so
can
you
lead to career opportunities. Sorry.
Yep, no, and I just want to reinforce that. So you kind of got your foot in the door with a lot of this work by starting out volunteering.
yeah. Again, they just, they needed some help. Just, they had a group of about 5 or 6 kids, and they were doing a claymation camp. And a lot of access centers are, staff wise, there's only a couple people usually. So volunteers definitely help them kind of, be able to produce all this stuff. So I helped out. It went really well. And then, some of the employees there asked if I wanted to kind of help out more, which I did. Just, local talk shows, stuff of that nature.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, the person who was the operations manager there ended up leaving, and the job posting went up, and I applied for it, and went well, and got
Nice.
the job. So yeah.
Nice. Now, when we look around, we see most towns or municipalities. I'm going to have trouble with this, stomping Jen and Jay. Most municipalities that have a cable provider also have this public access channel structure that, if my research was right, has to involve like a public channel, an education channel, and a government channel. And I'm curious, Jay, if you could tell us a little bit about why that is. Why do towns and municipalities have to provide these things?
Yeah, well, I think it goes as far back as the 70s, but in the 80s, it kind of really came together with some of like the laws that they had passed with what PEG stands for is public, educational, and government. So those are typically the 3 channels that a town would have. And what it is it's the cable companies, along with the municipalities, come up with an agreement. It's for them to do business in town, and then there's a certain fee, like a franchise fee, that goes to funding these stations.
Okay.
Right. So if you have a provider in town, say Spectrum or Comcast or whatever, as part of the residents who purchase services through the cable network, there's a surcharge fee on everybody's bill that goes towards this pot of money.
Yeah.
Right. And that gets negotiated with, this is my understanding of it. So if I'm wrong, Jay, let me know. And then it gets negotiated with the town, who is, making these agreements with the cable providers. And then they get reimbursed a certain amount of money in a form of a grant.
Yeah. And in my research in this, what I saw was it has a really complicated legal history, as Jay mentioned. I think the first laws around this were passed in the 70s. Then there was a big Supreme Court case in the 80s that was supposed to make it easier, but then actually made it harder in some ways, or gave towns more latitude or municipalities more latitude in how they distributed the money. Like it's really complicated. And one of the things I was curious about, and it was hard for me to get from my reading, was the why. Like, why do cable companies have to give this money to municipalities so they can have these channels? Is it to avoid a monopoly type of situation, or is it just to ensure that people who are paying for this service are able to be represented on it? I'm curious if either of you know.
I'm not sure. I can speculate, but maybe Jay knows the answer.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it was, to give people a voice in a way, and make it kind of democratic in that way. And, a lot of it's too is just the cost of, like a cable company coming into a town and having to, install lines and stuff like that. So there's also that side of it as well, which I think, was what the contract was really about in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably like a kickback. Like, we are going to provide this service to your residents. We're going to invest in all the infrastructure and lay all the lines and, in return, we'll give you some money back for choosing us as a provider. I mean, I don't even know if that's true,
no,
but
Yeah, and I think you're both likely right? My based on what I think I remember reading, it's more on kind of what Jay was saying, I think, in making sure that people have a voice and it's more democratic because these companies come in, they're using the town infrastructure, right?
No, it's their infrastructure.
Like the poles, they own the
They
poles.
own all the infrastructure, which is why once one provider enters into your community and lays all the infrastructure, it's very hard for another company and another provider to come in and take away that business from that town. So switching providers it makes it cost prohibitive because then, that provider that the town has an arrangement with will have to pull up all the infrastructure and a new company will have to come in and put on all that infrastructure, which is why this is such a hot topic in communities such as our own, where people are always complaining about our cable provider, but it's like they're kind of, we're in bed with them. We're in bed with the devil because there's no other
you guys
option.
Only have one provider in town?
We have one provider.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So
because a lot of the towns I have worked for usually have, it comes down to the big two, Comcast
and Spectrum.
Verizon. So
Verizon.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jay, do you know, do those cable companies share the infrastructure, or do the towns or that you've worked for, do they provide the infrastructure and the companies just kind of like rent them?
Yeah, I suppose so in a way. I know as far as kind of our equipment is that Verizon and Comcast, they do install their own hardware in, like in a town hall, and we kind of would broadcast on their equipment. But I think it's more like a right of way thing is how it's been described to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fascinating. So whatever the case, we know it's incredibly complicated.
It is complicated.
And
It is, yeah.
Has a long legal history behind it. But I think the good thing about it, though, as you've both have said, is it gives people a voice, right, to be able to express themselves and to get information from the town. So Jay mentioned this acronym, PEG, P-E-G. And that stands for Public, Educational, and Government. So what kind of stuff would we see on a public channel?
So public, we usually allow for anyone in the public, and the kind of the way that like an access station would work is you would have to either live in town or work in town to be able to use those services. And a lot of these access stations, they charge a very minimal fee to become a member. So it may be like $10 for the year, but that gives you kind of the ability to use all the equipment to produce shows. So anything on the public is typically community produced. So like right now we have a couple people in town who do a cooking show. So something like that would be put on there. Anything, talk shows are usually kind of popular shows that people produce. So that would go on public channel. And we also kind of go online and take from other towns that are producing content. So with COVID, it's a lot of people have been producing like exercise shows just to kind of keep people
Ooh.
give them something to watch.
Do they produce those like in their
They
homes?
do, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of there are producers who do produce their own shows, and I've seen it on a very small scale, and on the other side that's a large scale with like 5 or 6 guests. In I produced a talk show that was kind of a video game show, and so there's stuff like that. So anything kind of community produced would be specific to that channel. Concerts, stuff like that.
Yep. So that's where the residents get to put their generated content.
You just like opened up like a whole world for me in
Why?
terms of ideas, because there's stuff that's being happening in the community, and like traditionally the way that I've thought about it, it's like we have to ask our community television people to produce, and I know that we recently had like meetings with them about like, could we put content, if people come to our community access channel with content, would they put it on? And they were like, yeah, but I didn't think about like exercise classes and like collaborating with like our local library or whatever to get their programming onto our cable network.
Yeah.
One thing we've noticed lately is a lot of churches are coming to us to get their services on because
Yeah.
people just can't get there right now. They can't gather in large groups. And it's really important to people to be able to see that. So we've worked with a couple churches to, get them the right equipment, kind of almost act as consultants of, this is the gear you would need to be able to do this. And so we've set up about 2 or 3 where, they'll stream to like a Facebook or YouTube, but they'll also send their stream to us, which we will, broadcast throughout the community.
Does the town or municipality, do they take a position on something like a religious entity coming and saying we want to use the town money to do this?
It's kind of a fine line. You don't want to really kind of give too much preference, I guess, but it's all worked out pretty good. So, it's tricky with religion,
You just couldn't, you just couldn't pick, you probably couldn't pick one over the other and say,
right.
This
so
is
we've tried to allow anyone who wants to do it, we'll, say we'll give you a little time slot on Sunday to run your services. So we've had about, 3 or 4 come to us now.
Churches.
So that's kind of just what might go on a public channel.
Is one of them the Church of Satan by any chance? Because
no, they haven't approached us yet.
I love those people. They are amazing. I mean, just like a real quick aside, they have been huge proponents and drivers of free speech in this country. They're pretty amazing people. But all right, so no Church of Satan. So what kind of stuff would we see on an education channel?
So education channel, for us within town, it's anything that the schools produce, which might be, we do a lot of sports, local sports. So that's kind of our big thing. And I think that's what people want to see the most.
And like school committee meetings too?
We do also cover
Government.
School committee meetings, but it could be, concerts that might be happening at the high school. Recently, we've done a lot with graduations, just because, again, with COVID, it really, affected the schools. And, even today, I know we did their, or yesterday graduation, kind of virtually. So, the local center was there and filmed it. So it really kind of helped people be able to, watch the kids graduate, where they can't gather together right now. We've done some other things like award ceremonies. So a lot of stuff came out of COVID this year, situation where we were, helping them produce like the scholarship night, which, they would have held at their local school. But where they couldn't gather like that, we kind of went in, helped them produce content, put it on the web, so friends and family could kind of take part of it in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's amazing. That infrastructure, right? Kind of that we take for granted, like, oh, cable and public access TV. It's been sitting there waiting for its opportunity to kind of serve the community in a big way. And like this, like Jay was just saying, like this pandemic turns out to have been a way for the community to really leverage value out of that.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it just from the governmental level, like pulling our sort of antiquated systems into more of an more current technological, like, landscape. I've, with all of the online meetings, and every public meeting has to be online and televised and or open to the public, which is, leads into the government channel, because that's what our town does. Our local cable access, they televise a lot of the select board meetings and
So what kind of governmental business gets shown on these channels? Is it just town and select board meetings? Is there other stuff?
Well, kind of like what Stomping Jen had said, before kind of the pandemic happened, we would film a lot of government meetings and broadcast them. And we were doing that within our facility where, we have cameras in a room and, we're, controls and switchers, and we can, do it all right there. But when this all happened, things kind of really changed, where in order for a lot of these boards to be able to meet is that they had to broadcast or stream on the web to comply with the law. So, when that happens, we found ourselves covering boards that we probably never would have done, like they would meet in person, but we wouldn't film or televise them. So we had to really kind of ramp up what we were going to do, and that we kind of scrambled for a little while. Well, what's the best way to get this out? So we looked at a lot of software, we kind of went into the WebEx, the Zoom things. And then, we were probably doing maybe 20, 25 hours worth of content every week to make sure that these boards could meet and comply with the law.
Did you have
to keep business going,
Did you have to scale up your staff in your municipality?
Not so much staff, no, because our staff is very small. It's myself and my director and just one part-time person. And the part-time person, she was covering a bulk of the meetings. But when, kind of everything happened with the technology, the ability to kind of run these meetings required two of us to always be there, just because of the way like some of our hardware works. So yeah, we definitely had to invest in some stuff, and we didn't stream anything until this kind of all happened. So we had to look at streaming software, encoders, and laptops, and we were doing all of this from home as well. So that was a unique situation.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
In your municipality, were you handling that for like the town entire, or does the town that you work with have like a IT department also that was helping to coordinate those pieces?
A little bit. So our IT department is kind of separate. I mean, they handle a lot of all the other IT needs, but we as a department really kind of handle our own needs. I mean, there may be occasion where we have to work with them a little bit to like configure some IP addresses or firewalls or stuff like that. But for the most part, we kind of handle everything for the Telemedia Department on our own. And that's kind of my biggest role is, being the operations manager, is that I do work a lot with the infrastructure and, setting up the hardware, finding what we need to kind of make it all happen. So with this, we looked at some, I think we started using OBS, which is a streaming software, which I think was a lot of people use it to like, broadcast video games or something, but it really worked out well for us.
Is that a platform like Twitch or something? Is that a
Yeah, it's so I think it's almost like a free software package, and I think a lot of people do use that for that thing to go to
yeah,
Twitch and broadcast. But
yeah.
it really worked out well for us to be able to
Yeah, it's interesting.
that.
It's interesting how you mentioned that some of these platforms they started or had their genesis in the gaming world, right? Where people would stream their sessions of gameplay out, but now these platforms are growing like way beyond gaming and spreading everywhere. Like Twitch, like people have Twitch channels for everything now, and I wouldn't be surprised if like a town got onto Twitch and started like a Twitch channel to stream its content. That's why I asked that.
Every time you
Yeah,
say
yeah.
Twitch, I twitch. I'm just kidding.
Well, we started a Twitch channel for Soft Serve, like looking down the road, thinking about potentially live streaming at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was challenging because we had never done anything like that before. And, I'd say the first couple of weeks were a little chaotic. No one knew how to use WebEx or Zoom and, you know,
Yeah.
um, trying to, and some of these meetings can have like, 40, 50 people on there at a time. So, trying to make sure everyone's muted and the quality's good and, just trying to get it done was probably our biggest hurdle. But I think after, 2, 3 weeks of doing it, it all kind of came together. People started to learn the platforms a little bit and it worked out really well. And it allowed the public to comment on stuff that was important to them, so especially with like a selectman meeting or a
Yeah.
planning board meeting.
I feel like it's made it much more accessible for people who otherwise wouldn't have engaged or taken the time or had the ability to, drive to a meeting and sit in a meeting in a room.
One thing I was wondering is using streaming platforms to push content to something like Facebook Live or another venue. Does that has that decreased the engagement with the actual like cable channels? Like, I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always been going in that direction, kind of before the pandemic. I think a lot of these stations were struggling to kind of find ways to stay relevant. A lot of people were cutting the cord and getting rid of cable. And even up to last year, a lot of stations, there was going to be some changes in the way the FCC kind of distributed the funds. So, last year, a lot of stations were worried about their funding and it kind of got pushed aside. But,
Yeah.
I think the web is in streaming has actually brought more attention to it and kind of brought media back in a way where, some people might just, if they're on their TV, they might just skip something like that. So
Do these meetings, do they get simultaneously streamed like to a web platform and also the cable channel?
we do now, yeah.
Yeah.
So the way we do it, and again, because of the laws that we have to stream those,
Yeah.
but before we typically would just broadcast on the channel and maybe upload something
Mm-hmm.
like the next day. But now we go live on the channel, and then we also send YouTube. And if it's the case where we might have like 2 or 3 meetings going on the same time, we've even like incorporated Facebook, and we also have the ability to stream on our town website. It's just a kind of a service that's offered through our hardware providers. So
Yeah, like I can definitely see a continuing future for the educational and government like channels on a cable service. The thing that I wonder about, especially with stuff like YouTube and people creating content at home, like we know people make their own cooking shows and put them on YouTube. Like I'm wondering if there's a streaming future for towns that involves like a town YouTube channel for hosting content that people make that would have been on a public channel. Like,
Right. So we actually do have a YouTube
oh,
page where, and we upload, we do upload everything to that. So,
okay.
anything that would have aired on any of those channels is typically put up on the next day so people can go back and watch it.
Yeah, and I think that's great, and I'm glad to hear at least your town is kind of thinking that way, and thinking about, let's continue to keep ourselves relevant, and try to keep up with the times. I'm sure not every town is thinking that way right now.
Well,
Even though YouTube is a pretty old like platform and technology at this point, but
Well, I
yeah.
just think about like accessibility issues. Like you think about, if you are a senior and are used to putting things on a television as opposed to being on Facebook or YouTube or whatnot, and, you know, having that additional media available to them to watch a program,
yeah, it's a really good point.
through public
Yeah.
access, and
No, definitely, because I think that population is sometimes they're a little leery of technology
hmm
and don't want to kind
yeah,
of make that leap, and,
yeah,
and they're very comfortable with just kind of watching it on TV. But
yeah,
Yeah,
I think this year definitely changed things of
yeah,
how people would access that content, and we do a lot with the senior population. Like I was talking about the exercise show
hmm
that was produced with the senior center, so it's we make it available for people who don't want to kind of take the leap into technology
yeah,
to be able to view it, but
and it's all relative too, right? Like I'm
yeah,
thinking like 30 years from now, right?
yeah.
We're gonna be the
We're
people
gonna be the seniors.
right, right,
that the town employees are saying, oh, they don't want to Neuralink into our
Right,
programming. They want to stream it,
exactly. Yeah,
right? They want to see it on YouTube or
yeah.
Twitch or whatever. Like,
Well, I mean, and conversely, like I think about like a place like the Family Center that services the 0 to 5 population in town. Like there's something to be said about putting on a show produced for the Family Center for children that's not on YouTube or Facebook, also, or a teen program. Like I think about our own children who are not on Facebook, but our library has a lot of programming for teens right now, and so like I see it because I'm on Facebook, and then I have to like feed the information to my teenager, like, hey, they're having a trivia night, like
right.
maybe you should do it. He doesn't get the information because he's not on Facebook, right? So
But they are on like YouTube, right? Like they
I
watch
know they
tons of
are on
stuff on
YouTube. I
YouTube.
know. Well,
Yeah. So
I don't know. It's
yeah,
interesting.
one thing I'm wondering is there, and this is kind of a geeky question, is there a way to track how many people are watching a public access channel?
so I'll say it's very hard to do on the actual channel.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm trying to think of the name of it, the Nielsen, like where they
Right.
retrieve all that data. So we don't really have a good ability to track that. What we can really track well is the streaming stuff, because all the analytics are right there for you to look
Yeah.
at. So I think we kind of almost have to depend on word of mouth with the channels, unfortunately. Like, we might hear in town, oh, I saw that meeting the other night, or oh, I saw that show. I wouldn't say it's huge numbers, just because of the nature of the programming.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
again, it's very difficult to track that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Are there, and you talked maybe a little bit about this, Stomping Jen. Are there obvious benefits to keeping these channels around and putting programming on these public access cable channels versus other platforms
I
like
think you put it
YouTube
on all
and
the
the web?
platforms. I think that's what Jay's talking
Yeah.
about, is that
Mm-hmm.
you make it accessible by putting it on multiple platforms,
Yeah.
but using the same content.
Yeah. And part of what I'm trying to do is play the devil's advocate
I
here
hear you.
too. The stodgy town manager who says, no, cable and only cable access channels, and we don't need this other stuff.
I don't think any town manager would say that.
If I
Yeah,
was
I
a
have to
town
say
manager,
that
I would.
the administration has been very supportive of what we're doing, especially with all the different platforms. I think just having the channel is just another way for people to access it,
Yeah.
and maybe that will change in 10 years where, more people are cutting the cord and, don't want to pay for cable anymore. And unfortunately, that would it definitely affects our funding in a way. So we don't necessarily want to see that, but
Yeah.
I think it will evolve. I think it's going to stay relevant, and I think this year really showed us that we are still relevant, because I think the past couple of years we were definitely scared a little bit. I know a lot of stations were
Yeah.
worried, especially with some of the rules that they were proposing. So
Yeah, and for
you
me,
know,
like an obvious reason about why we still need these channels, right, is YouTube, Facebook. I mean, these are companies, right?
You're
They can
privatizing all your information.
they can shut down their, like you said, privatizing your information.
Yeah.
I don't think they're not long. They may not be long-term sustainable venues for distributing information. So I think towns are always going to need this kind of reliable method of being able to give people a way to express themselves, but also distribute information.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other big thing, is that, people get their information in so many different avenues, right? They get it online, they get it in the paper, they get it on the TV. I mean, there's just so many different sources of information, and you still will find people. You could put it on every platform that you can think of, and people will still not get the information. You can mail it to them, you can call them on the phone, you can send it out on online channels, you can put it on the TV, and they still don't see the information.
Yeah.
So hitting them with as many different bullets as you can possibly get out there, I think is, really important.
Yeah. So one question I wanted to ask here was, do you ever run up against issues about free speech? Like, have you ever had somebody come to you in your department and say, I want to put a show on about this thing? And as a department, you've had to say, we really can't do that.
Yeah, again, that's kind of a fine line too. I have never really seen it. I just, nothing too racy or anything like that. Occasionally we'll get some content that might be, you wouldn't want a kid to see it, but we don't try to censor anything. What we might do is, okay, we're going to put this on at like an 11 o'clock time slot or something.
Yeah.
So, it just, we're going to push it later, and, and maybe the kids won't see this. Again, anything we do is nothing like R-rated or anything like that.
But I imagine you have some guidelines around what kind of content, like, so no hate speech, no pornography, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Stuff like that is definitely a no. The swearing, you got to be careful with that too. Again, it's nothing that's really come up in my career, but I know some other stations that have had some challenges with that too. So,
Yeah.
but again, we definitely try not to censor anyone and give everyone a voice and a platform, and be equal about it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get enough content to have programming throughout the day?
We do.
Wow.
Again, this year has been challenging.
Yeah.
Because for a while, we didn't. Myself and my other staff member, we would go out and film a lot of this stuff. So maybe we would do like 3 or 4 library events. That could be a concert or a lecture, and that was usually good about giving us a lot of content. The way we do it is we start at 6 a.m. and then we usually stop our last program about 10 o'clock. So we do have some stuff. The library has been producing a lot of Zoom type things where they'll send to us. So it's been good that we're keeping the content new and fresh, and it's always always different. But a lot of the access stations, they share stuff. So if we see a show we like, we'll pull that down. And then even there's a couple things that we do where other towns they'll do like a live talk show in the morning. We have the ability to kind of take that stream and bring it in. So
Do you have to do that by agreement? Like, do you have to reach out
we
to
do.
that town?
We do have agreements that you have to sign, like a producer agreement, and it's very standard stuff. Nothing crazy, but they do. All producers have to fill out that form to be able to produce shows.
We don't have any forms.
What?
On our show, the Soft Serve podcast. I think we need a form.
A form for what?
Oh, you didn't make me sign it.
No, we didn't. We don't make anyone sign a form.
Liability form?
Any kind of form. Jay has me
worried. They're going to come back and sue us.
Yeah, Jay has me worried. We didn't have any forms. Uh-oh. I'm really worried about this form issue. All right.
But I guess it's a little sad too, because we had, we put a lot of investment into a studio the past year, and it just doesn't seem like we're going to have the chance to kind of use that right now, just with everything happening. So we're hoping that, as things get better, people will want to come back and start producing shows again, because it's a lot of fun for us. I mean, as media professionals, we like doing that stuff.
Yeah. What does your studio look like?
It's within a school. It's nothing big, but there's 3 cameras usually, and a lot of stations are like this. They'll have 3 cameras, switcher, all the audio equipment. Probably similar to a lot what you guys are using for the podcast. Green screen, so we can change the background. So they're small, but they're very functional.
Is it in a school intentionally to provide like learning opportunities for students?
Yeah, a lot of them do have media classes, but they don't often like broadcast to a channel or anything like that. It's usually kept within the school. So, but
wow.
we've worked with the schools quite a bit to produce content. So,
and so you built, so right before the pandemic hit, you all built a brand new studio.
Not so much built a brand new one, but we definitely made some improvements to what they had. And we were starting to get people really interested in it, like, oh yeah, I want to do this, and we're going to come in, and then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, well, we can't do that right now. So hopefully, as things improve, we'll be able to get back in there and give help people produce some content.
Now, does your operation do production work for people? Like, could somebody bring you, a series of video files and say, turn this into a produced show for me, or do you do more training and teaching?
Yeah, so for this job as a municipality, we don't do a lot of production work, but I think kind of last year and the year before is what a lot of the stations were doing, and this was very abnormal for them, is that they started taking on production work just because they needed another source of revenue. When I first started, it was like, there's no way, no, we can't do anything commercial or anything like that. But people had to change their way of thinking. So, I have worked at stations where someone will approach us to create them a video that they can use commercially or for their business. So we wouldn't do it, but I think the nonprofits have gone that route where they will offer services like that.
And so before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about differences in how some of these media departments are structured, and I think, Jay, you were saying there's nonprofits and some are
municipality.
Can you talk a little bit
right?
about that? I'm curious. About
so this is the first municipality that I have worked for, so it's it's a town department. It has that town structure. There's a lot of benefits to that. Where the nonprofits, they've always kind of worked in agreements with the towns. So I think the biggest thing I have noticed is um, just being a town department. There's a lot of support there that I don't think I always saw when working in the nonprofit world. I mean, they're very similar structured, but I think probably the funding's a little different. But
So I think I understand. Help me out here. So I think what you're saying is that a town that has a cable provider or providers is obligated to provide these services to its residents, right? I think we agree.
No, they get money.
They get money to do that, but
Right.
they can give that money to a nonprofit who provides those services. Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't know. Jay would know more than me. So if
yeah,
it's a nonprofit model within a town, how does that differ from a municipality structure?
I think that what the town would do is they basically would set aside, like the town would distribute the funds to the nonprofit,
Right.
but the nonprofit was really kind of on their own as far as like creating the content and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's the same, but
Now, our town, Stomping Jen, is our I don't know what it's called. Is it a media department? Is it
Yeah.
a
It's a community television.
community television?
Mm-hmm.
That's a town department.
Town department.
Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
all right.
I mean, we have budgets that need to be approved,
Yeah.
like any town department.
I think you should rename it though.
But Belchertown Community Television.
Yeah, that seems
isn't-
too limiting
Well,
based on what I'm hearing
well,
here.
what I will say
Yeah.
is that I think a nonprofit would have more latitude to be more of a media department.
Yeah. We also need a mayor, and I should be that mayor.
That is a whole other.
Yes. Mayor Sawtooth. Go on, Stomping Jen, please.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I do
Well,
know.
I mean, if you're like a nonprofit, right? Like you would have other revenue sources and other abilities to look for different grants, right? So if you're a municipality and a town department, you don't have that latitude. You have the grant that comes from the cable network. And
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's set up.
And you may or may not get any additional funding from the town. I know our community television only gets the grant money from the negotiations with the. I don't
And
think
a
they get any.
nonprofit would have a board of directors
Right,
as well,
exactly.
making some of the decisions. So
Yeah.
it's definitely different there.
Right, so they have a little bit more of oversight from a committee or as you mentioned, a board, right? Whereas a town department would just, they were town employees and they would report to the town administrator or mayor or manager or whatever structure that town has.
You were looking at me when you said mayor.
I'm looking at you because you got me all discombobulated, but usually a mayor is like a city. We don't live in a city. We live in a town.
Yes, I accept your nomination for mayor,
Oh my
Stomping
God.
Jen.
Oh
So
boy.
the training you provide to residents in your municipality, is it just on like the hardware aspects of a studio, or do you do training on like Final Cut? What's the Adobe video thing?
Yeah, no, we do it all, I guess.
Yeah.
A lot of if they want to do something in the studio, we'll certainly show them all the equipment there. If they want to go out and film stuff, we have field cameras that we will train them on.
Does that mean you as a town employee have to know, like, you have to like make an appointment with somebody, like a 2-hour appointment, and say we're going to sit down and cover the basics of Final Cut, or do you sit them in front of like a bunch of tutorial videos or like?
No, it's all one-on-one training, and they'll make an appointment with us. And I've done it. I've done studio training, camera training, certainly software training, and it's usually one-on-one for a couple hours.
Yeah.
A lot of stations I know that will do they might break it up over a month or so, and you have a 2-hour class. yeah, we try to train anyone who wants to learn.
Yeah, God bless you. In my line of work is IT education, and one of the things I specialized in was, for a time, a few years, I taught people how to use like iMovie, Final Cut Pro, and that is, I mean, those are complex problems to try to solve for people in terms of getting them to learn the conceptual models that the programs use. And you need a lot of patience because people come in at all sorts of different skill levels, and teaching somebody a new technology is really hard work. I envy you to be able to do
It is
that.
hard work, and like you said, it's all different skill levels. And I've worked with older people who just excel at it, and really take it on, and are able to produce content. And I've worked with younger audience as well, like kids, and again, you just gotta find what works best for them, and kind of adapt to that.
I think, Sawtooth,
Yes.
that I sense an opportunity for you to volunteer at our local community television station, educating our community on these different softwares, especially being in IT education and already having curriculum developed for some of these topics.
Let me respond.
Now, now, Stomping Jen, dude. So your station, is it a big staff?
Nope.
Or
It sounds a lot like what you were describing.
okay, so probably
Actually,
just
I think there are 2 people, both
Yeah.
part-time.
yeah,
Yes.
it's challenging,
Yes.
for two people
Yes,
to
and they rely heavily on an army of volunteers who help assist in the taping of public meetings. So they have a bunch of people who tape public meetings, and then if there are events in town, they'll try to cover them. But 2 part-time people
yeah.
who obviously work full-time because they're retired from
Right.
their
Yeah, no, it's hard to cover everything without those volunteers.
Yep.
We've had some great volunteers over the years who have really, helped us out, and they seem to enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
They definitely get something out of it. And we've also used interns quite a bit too, and I don't know if you would be able to
Yeah.
go to the schools to kind of bring someone in.
Yeah.
But that's been really good for us. And a lot of these kids have gone on to college and are pursuing this as a career,
Yeah.
So
Do you use college interns ever?
we have, yet not at this station. So primarily we've done a lot of stuff with the high school, seniors who are about to go into college. But it's been great. They have a certain passion for it too,
I think that's the most exciting thing about this kind of work, actually, are those educational opportunities for other people, right? And this is going to sound, of course, a little self-serving, but often when you are the keeper of such high-level technical skills, right? And when you can transfer those to other people and empower them, like that is such a good feeling.
Yeah.
And kind of being able to say, now you don't have to come to me. Now you can do this on your own, and here you go. And that's actually, I loved hearing that, teaching people is a big part of what you do. I love that.
No, it's definitely very, very rewarding, I've seen, kids who have started when they're 14, just a little interest in learning how to use a video camera, and now they're going on to film school, and it's fun watching them kind of grow up through this, and wanting to do this as a career, and it's their passion. So again, it is very rewarding in that sense.
In talking to our local community television, so I think one of the challenges that they face is the fact that their phones are so prevalent, so people feel like, oh, I can just whip out my phone and take some video on my phone, but they don't understand the nuance of like actual like camera work and lighting and editing and all of those component pieces. And so I know that the struggle has been with our local community is connecting with, the students, the school age kids in our community has been a struggle for and a challenge for our local community television.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's so easy now. You
Mm-hmm.
you have your phone and it's a video camera, and you
Right.
can take that video and put it up to YouTube. But like you said, the nuances of it, I think that's where we can kind of help is
Right.
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Yeah.
pass on our knowledge a little bit. So, things are, there's a quality to it, I think, sometimes as well, So,
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that, right? But I also think, like the cell phone
Yeah.
and these streaming platforms like YouTube and like Facebook have been incredibly democratizing to people,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like 10 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to set up a podcast studio
Mm-hmm.
in our home office.
Yes, I will just also
Yeah.
say,
And I would, sorry, let me just finish. And I wouldn't have been able to learn and teach myself these skills for zero money, except for the cost of an internet connection, right?
oh, so you're talking about educational
But
tools,
what
utilizing the internet.
what I'm saying is the whole paradigm of how information is produced now, locally on the cell phone and put up on the internet, and like the DIY kind of modality of education and content production, I think has opened up the world to people.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like we wouldn't have been able to do this if I wasn't able to spend, like months researching it on my own. That's all. I think that's a great thing. But I also hear what Jay. How dare you touch my board? I also hear what Jay is saying too. I mean, sometimes you might want a higher level of quality for something, right? Whipping
Yeah.
out the cell phone may not be the right solution.
Right. So, like, to use that metaphor that you were just talking about, when
Whipping it out?
No.
No, go on.
When you started the podcast,
Yes.
our equipment was, pretty primitive,
We started with a USB snowball mic.
right?
Yep.
You recorded it, you tracked it, you put it on GarageBand and everything.
Yeah.
And that, because we continued with this passion project, you upgraded equipment, right? So like where Jay is working, their equipment is like way higher quality than an iPhone. So like you start with an iPhone and then you really want more of that professional like look and feel to a video or
Right.
whatever. You have to move up, and yes, you can learn it, but maybe the purchasing of the equipment is cost prohibitive. But hey, here's this local community access department within our town, and for the low cost of $10, you join, they train you on the equipment, you learn how to use it,
Yeah.
and then you have that equipment that you didn't have to purchase that's available to you to use. And that is I think the benefit of having these local community media
Yeah, no,
departments.
definitely. As long as it's a non-commercial nature that people can check it out and go out and film anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of students do like student film projects using our equipment,
Mhm.
and it's amazing what they can come up with and
And so,
are able to produce.
and sometimes nothing beats, sitting down with another human being and having them be like, oh no, you do it this way, you
Yeah.
click over there, and that having that connection with another human being can also feel really good.
I think a lot of people appreciate that. It's a little bit more, I guess, intimate than going on YouTube and looking at a tutorial or something
Mhm.
like that.
Yep, for sure.
But
So what else do you enjoy about the work?
it's for me, it's always just been my passion. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to work in media or animation or film. So it's definitely allowed me to kind of fulfill my dream, a little bit. And I had kind of pushed that off, but going back to school for my degree in animation was probably the biggest game changer for me. And then being able to work in my community and learn about my community was a big thing for me. Like I was never really interested in local politics until I
Mm-hmm.
started working in this field. And, I really do love it, and I get to, you know, use the skills I've learned and, be involved and create content. And, that's probably, again, the most rewarding thing for me.
Yeah. Anything pop into mind when you think about challenges with the work, like that, some of the hardest parts of it?
Yeah, it would be this year, just
Yeah.
for the sheer amount of hours we were doing just to cover all these meetings.
Right.
It was some long days,
Yeah. And you're
12-hour days here and there, and
you and your department and your town are public servants, and when you have a crisis like a pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
you don't think about it, right? You like when we walk around and it's in normal life, we don't think about how important something like the telemedia department might be in a national crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Like we tend to go to the police and the firefighters and, the select board,
Sorry.
those super important people.
Oh yeah, super
But
yeah,
you don't think about like what a critical role like a tiny little department
important.
like Jay's telemedia department
yeah. I
plays.
guess I think people really saw the value in it this year.
Yeah.
And one of the things about working with the town is how well we work together with the other departments
Mm-hmm.
and how they've come to us when they need to get a message out, whether it be like the police department or the fire department or anything else. Public works needs to get messages out here. I think they really appreciate the kind of easiness it is to get something to us, and we'll produce it, we'll get it out, and get the message out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, the way that everyone came together as well this year, and just all departments were there for each other to keep things going as best we could during all this. So yeah,
Yeah.
it opened my eyes up a lot this year.
Yeah, and thinking about the future, someday we'll be beyond this pandemic. Hopefully,
Yeah.
there'll be a new technology out there. Like, where do you, when you think about public access and, the technologies you're using to support it now, do you have any thoughts about where it might be going or evolving to?
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to see more of the streaming stuff for sure. I think I think it will eventually probably will get away from the kind of the channels. Um, but again, having the streaming capabilities in place now, I think a lot of people are going to get the content that way. But again, I think it's still relevant. I think you know um, it allows people to connect. A good example is like with a lot of the school stuff. A lot of like a grandparent might want to see their grandkid graduate. You know what I mean? The streaming and the YouTube allows us to kind of provide that.
Mm-hmm.
Where someone can be around the world and see it.
Yeah. And how do you stay current with technology? You know, as somebody who is in this field kind of like tangentially over here,
Yeah,
like I am overwhelmed often by the sheer number of like choices available to me, like video editing softwares or streaming services. Like how do you stay current and focused on the technologies that you need to kind of accomplish your mission?
yeah. No, I mean it's definitely kind of a lot to digest sometimes. I mean, there's just so many different resources and so much gear you can get. So, we I think what helps us is a lot of the media professionals. We're all pretty close. We kind of have like an online forum
Mm-hmm.
where everyone's really good about sharing knowledge and answering
Ah,
questions. Um, Very helpful, providing a lot of feedback, and even on some of the equipment, might recommend this camera over this camera. I think too we've kind of you know doing this for so long as we know what works well
Mm-hmm.
versus something that might not work as well. So
yeah.
yeah, it's a lot. You know, like you have switcher A, switcher B. And I'm sure it's kind of the same with the podcast stuff. And
It is, and
what mic is going to be better than this one? What's the benefit of it? You know?
absolutely. And I could tell you that forums have been the places I have found the answers to my most vexing questions.
Yeah. And, I mean,
Forums.
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely try to go on there every day, and someone might say, "Oh, my Final Cut is crashing. What can I do?" And it's just the support that you can get through something like that is amazing. And I think that's what's kind of kept us as professionals going a little bit too.
Yeah. Is there anything that the quote unquote average citizen of a town can do to support a telemedia department like yours or our own Belchertown Community Television, Stomping Jen? What can people do?
Get involved.
But like how? What are some ways people can get involved?
Volunteer.
But how?
They can help tape meetings. They can learn how to operate cameras. They can attend meetings. They can connect professionals with other professionals and spread the word, awareness. They can help bring content to a station.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. I mean, we love people getting involved. I mean, that's that's what we're there for. So we want people to use it. It could be as simple as come volunteer for a meeting. Maybe you want to sit there for a couple hours and just learn about it a little bit. See how these things work. Especially if you have an interest in this stuff. I think it's kind of the best way to learn about this stuff too.
Yeah. I mean, It's interesting too that you mentioned about town government and not being involved. And so when I was meeting with our local community television station, trying to engage a new volunteer. One
Be right back. You keep talking.
One of the station managers was talking about how there's one particular individual who has been the volunteer because of scheduling reasons or whatnot. She always tapes the planning board meetings, right? So she has learned so much about the planning department and what the planning board does, because the planning board meetings are really kind of dry because there's a lot of regulation and bylaws and zoning and things that normal people just don't have the mental bandwidth to, really focus on.
Yeah. No, it's funny you said that because I've recently done a planning board meeting. I think that was 4.5 hours long.
Yep.
But, I do have an interest in it, and even though it might not be my town, I just, I do find it interesting, and it's cool to learn about that stuff.
Right. It's like, I'm on
education for me. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm on the select board, and a lot of times, we have to weigh in on things that the planning board are talking about. Yeah. And it's yeah, I don't know anything about a side yard step back or why you need so many feet next to another, but that's how you engage in your town, and that's how, things get set. And it's always when things are going wrong that the community shows up for these meetings, and they all have an opinion about why whatever this volunteer committee that's their expertise, why they're wrong and why they should vote some way or another because some mother's uncle read it on the internet or blah, blah, blah. Or
that's what it's about, right? You can voice your concerns. You have that platform to kind of make it known.
Did you say side yard setback? That's a country dance.
Oh my God.
All right. Get ready, folks. We're going to do this.
Taking this in a direction.
We're going to do the side yard setback.
I cannot hear what Jay is saying.
Grab your part. All right, go ahead.
What did you say?
No, but it's funny that you mentioned side yard setbacks. I've heard that term a million times.
Yeah.
But, I still can't tell you.
All right, now. Grab your fence and step to the back. Move your culvert all the way to the left.
You're getting a little punchy there.
All right,
Mr. Sawtooth.
I like the side yard setback. That's a good dance. All right, so I have to ask this question. As a media professional, do you prefer Mac or Windows, or do you deploy both?
So we do have software and some systems that are PC. But as far as editing goes, I prefer a Mac. I'm more comfortable on a Mac. A lot of the animation software that I would use is Mac based. So a lot of media centers I have seen where they would have been Windows before, they've all kind of shifted to Mac as well.
It's the right answer. It's the right answer. It's the right answer.
Yeah.
If I had a choice, then yes, I would go with Macs all the time.
Now, Stomping Jen.
All Mac all the time.
Stomping Jen and
Yes.
Jay, I am disappointed that
Yeah.
I did not hear that people are interested in podcasts, making podcasts.
You can get involved.
Let's let our be.
Yeah.
Let's. You don't have to berate me. Let's let our
So
guest respond, please.
So one of the stations I used to work for, actually, they did do podcast lessons, and they even had a little podcast studio. So I think, yeah, people are
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah, I have mentioned this to Sawtooth that he has a open invitation to go to our local community television station, and
I can't keep my expensive gear in that place, and I can't cart it back and forth. It's too cumbersome.
Nobody told you to. They all have equipment over there.
No, they don't have the right equipment.
Then that's where Jay, back me
Yeah,
up.
so I think this is like kind of the thing I was trying to say is, if you want to make a podcast, maybe you don't have the expensive mics or the mixer, but for a small membership fee, why not come in, learn how to do it, and use the equipment, and then be able to get your podcast and message out there.
Yes, so I'm not suggesting that we bring our equipment over there. I'm
What were you
suggesting that you get involved in studio and encourage the investment or utilize some of the mics that they have, and maybe for the low cost of a little bit of equipment, you could help them invest in some higher end equipment that other people in the community can then be educated with.
Did you say get involved? I'm way too involved in this.
Okay, mister.
All right, I'm kidding. I'll get involved. Leave me alone.
I mean,
Jesus.
it's hard, because we all know people are busy and don't have a lot of time. So we definitely appreciate when people can volunteer just even an hour.
Yeah, even an hour.
An hour or two.
An hour or two a month.
You're gonna give me a heart attack. Speaking of which,
Oh, we're switching gears now, Jay.
well, no. Before we do that, I want to. Was there anything else you wanted to say about the professional world you operate in?
No, I just wanted to thank you guys for allowing me to talk about it and bring some attention to it, because I don't think a lot of people still realize that it's available in their towns. And I would just kind of encourage people to look around, go on the town website, do some Google searches, see if there's a station in your community, and try to get involved. And we would love that.
Okay, thank you. I think people will learn a lot from that piece of our conversation, and I also think people are going to learn a lot from this next piece of our conversation. Mm-hmm. So, and you scared me as your personal friend a few weeks ago when you had this heart attack. I think we have a pretty close online group of friends, and we communicate almost daily together. Mm-hmm. And so Jay let us know that he had a heart attack, and I think we were all really worried and shocked, and I think I even asked in our online space, like, how did you know, like, you were having one? And
it was probably one of the scariest things I've ever gone through. This year I kind of was doing my best to get healthy, and I for years I ate really bad. I was a smoker, and it was kind of the New Year's resolution thing, like, I'm going to get healthy, and I was doing really good. Got a lot of the weight off, and it was doing good with the smoking. It was just, one day I was just sitting here, and I had just finished up doing one of these meetings, and I all of a sudden just felt kind of like a tightness around my chest.
Okay.
So it wasn't really bothering me. I just kind of sat down and I just noticed it started to kind of almost creep up like through my jaw,
Huh.
where the pain was just so bad, like it was like radiating in my teeth.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just it was just very uncomfortable. I s- I didn't know what it was. I was like, am I having a panic attack or like what is this? So I at the time I laid on my couch and like, well, maybe this will just go away. And then
Right.
I'm sitting there and I'm not getting comfortable, I guess,
Yeah.
and it started to get worse, and I just
Okay.
I couldn't I just couldn't stand still, like I had to keep moving.
So
But
you like felt antsy kind of.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, oh my God, is this like a COVID thing? Like, because I'm having difficulty breathing at this
Right.
point. I mean, um, so I'm just kind of again trying to hoping it goes away, and then I kind of ran into the other room where my parents were. I'm like, something's really wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I need to go to the hospital like right now. Like, I don't know what this is. So we
How,
hop in the car, and
about how much time was it when you first started
so I would
noticing that
say from the
feeling?
moment I started feeling it to when I actually got into the car, maybe 20-25 minutes.
Wow. So that's pretty quick.
Yeah, yep. And then, looking back, maybe I should have called like an ambulance, but I think getting into the car right away and driving was, having my father drive me there was probably, it was probably the best thing because would have been more time of me waiting here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um, so, through the whole car ride, I'm in a ball, like clinching because it just hurts so bad at this point.
Oh, wow.
And then we get to the hospital, and at this point, like everything is, you know, very COVID proof. Like you have to like pick up the phone to call people,
Yeah.
and like in the waiting room, I'm like, so I pick up the phone. I'm like describing to them what's happening. They said,
Yeah.
okay. They brought me in, and they had me sit in kind of like a waiting room.
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm like the pain is getting worse. Like, and there's just nothing I can do about it. Like, I
Pe-
just want like some relief at this point.
yeah.
And I still don't know what's really happening either.
Yeah. People often describe, you hear people say it felt like an elephant was standing on my chest. Was
Yeah,
it like
like
that for you or was it
sure,
different?
yeah. Like the pressure was,
Yeah.
it was almost like unbearable. Like someone that like had like a cinder block on there.
Okay.
So finally they get me into a room, and they get me on a stretcher or a table, and all these people come in, doctors and nurses, and they're like hooking me up, and just getting my shirt off and like putting like like the thing,
The
the diodes or whatever.
yeah.
um and then I'm just kind of waiting for them to do something to ease the pain, and they finally get me on some, I think, morphine to kind of bring that down.
Yep.
um And then, I'm kind of looking around, and I'm terrified,
Of
Yeah.
like I
course.
don't know what, it's very, very scary. And then finally, one of the doctors, I look at her face, and she's looking at like the screens, and I can tell like her expression is not good. So
Oh no, that's never a good
I'm
sign.
like, well,
Yeah.
what is going on? And then finally she tells me, she's like, well, you're having a cardiac event, and this is what we're going to do. And it's like, we're either gonna do this or this. And then, so
Did
what finally happened
did that
is,
make you when she said that to you, did that make you feel any
so
better?
like everything's flashing before my
Yeah.
eyes. Like,
Right.
oh my God, they're gonna like cut me open.
Yep.
Like, like I have two daughters. Like, am I gonna see them again? So
Yeah.
like I'm freaking out at this point.
Right.
She's like, it's okay, everything's gonna be okay. So she, like, the nurse there was really good at like bringing me down a little bit, like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you're going to be all right. You'll get through this. but again, like I didn't know what procedure they were going to do or anything
Right.
like that. So eventually, yeah, they bring me into the I guess the operating room, and they put me on a table, and before I know it, they're put a tube up through my right arm, like right in the wrist, maybe a little pinhole size, and they
What?
kind of come up through the arm and then come over. And what they did was they placed a stent in the artery because what they think had happened was like plaque fell off
Yeah.
and like blocked that hole.
Yep.
So yeah.
Holy
So
crap. So they went in. I mean, I want to make sure people hear this. All they did was make a little incision in your wrist.
it was tiny. It was like literally, it felt like a little. When I looked at it later, it was like a little pinhole. It was
Yeah.
just tiny. It's amazing. But like again, I'm thinking like they're gonna put me under. They're gonna like cut me open. Crazy stuff. But it wasn't like I was awake the whole time,
That's
and I
crazy.
could see. Yeah, I'm looking at the screen. I could like actually see what he was doing. It was very surreal.
Especially with being on a little bit of morphine too.
Yeah,
Having to watch that.
Exactly. But thank God, because I was in so much pain up
Yeah.
until that point. Like I just needed something to just get it under control.
So
And that was maybe 2 hours.
okay.
It was really hard to tell the time, what was going on.
Did they keep you there overnight?
So, so what they did is they put the stent in, and they brought me to another hospital. They weren't taking any non-COVID patients, so it was just more set up for recovery. And then I probably spent not even 2 days there.
Wow.
Just wanted to monitor me, and that night I felt like nothing had even happened.
That's crazy.
Now, did your heart itself suffer any damage?
No, so the good thing is it didn't. I actually just had an echo about a week ago, and they said everything's looking good. Just keep up. And now I'm on like 5 different medications, thinners and all sorts of stuff, lower cholesterol, and
Is that stuff you're going to have to take on an ongoing
it could be
basis?
For at least some of them could be forever. Yeah, it's something that will get evaluated in about a year.
Yeah.
So, but they were like, yeah, you don't ever smoke again. Like, it jolted me. It was some scary stuff. Yeah.
Did they leave the stent in? Is that like a permanent
It
thing?
does. It does.
Yeah.
Yep. It stays in. It looks like almost, I don't know if you've like seen those, like those Chinese firecracker things where you like put your fingers in the end, and it looks exactly like that.
So is that what it does? It like plugs through the hole, like like you put like a little straw inside your heart or whatever.
Yeah, basically.
Keep the artery open.
Yep.
Right. Kind of expands it a little bit. It's almost like little barbs that keep it open. So it's everything worked. One thing he said to me was I was very lucky, and I was good to come in when I did.
Yeah.
So it was almost, that's why I say it was probably a good idea to just go and not wait for an ambulance to come. Because, even minutes could have done some damage that would have not been.
Yes. So people, if you're listening to this and you experience symptoms like that, don't fuck around.
Yeah.
Get to a hospital. Now it's no secret. You and I, we're not exactly spring chickens, right? But we're not old. We're not ancient either. Right, Stomping Jen?
You're not yet 50.
Right. I've got some gray hairs in my beard, right? But I'm not 50. We're not 50.
We're not 50.
I mean, aside from like the obvious lifestyle stuff that you talked about, right? That you need to change. Did they talk to you at all about like genetic predisposition? Is there anything else that might be behind this?
So there is some history in the family as well. But I'm thinking, Jesus, I'm 46 years old, and this should not be happening. I mean, I guess you never know. And again, I think a lot of it was clearly my fault, just from, again, years of living. I think I always thought I was indestructible,
Yeah.
nothing's going to happen, but it changes you,
Yeah. You're a human being like the rest of us, I'm presuming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless this was your robotic mechanical heart that somehow
No, that
developed
didn't.
a blockage. Yeah. So, all right. So you mentioned not smoking. Is there other stuff you are gonna try to do to be
Yeah, no,
healthier?
like
Like what kind of
it's
stuff?
definitely like a heart healthy diet, and
Mm-hmm.
exercise is huge.
Yeah.
I have to change or had to change my whole lifestyle.
Hmm.
So I know the smoking is under control. With the patch, and I get up every morning and try to do at least some cardio for at least a good 45 minutes, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's. I was never the healthiest person, but this definitely, you know,
Yeah.
was a wake up call. Like, you got to do this, or you won't be here. It was,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, how often do you have to check in with the doctors about your heart? Like you said, you had an echo just not too long ago.
Yeah. It's funny because I almost expected for them to want me to like call them every week or so, but it's been monthly appointments. I had to fill my primary care in, so I check with him, quite often. I have a cardiologist, and
Okay.
yep. So far there hasn't been much, and again, maybe that's because a lot of people are just starting to take appointments again.
Hmm.
I guess I was kind of surprised. Like, this seems like a big deal. I feel like I should be talking to him right now. But
Right.
but yeah, no, it's definitely checking in, and if they're certainly there if something comes up as well. And there's even a medication I have that I need to take if I ever find myself feeling that way again. So
Hmm.
Right. I was going to say, I imagine there's this probably kind of ongoing feeling like it might happen again, and you're like really worried about that.
yeah, no, certainly, it's happened. I'm sure, with all the smoking and stuff, it took its toll.
Yeah.
You can't change that, but you can change how you go from there.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, I'm definitely you know aware of that. That yeah, okay, it could happen, and maybe I won't be so lucky next time.
No, you will be. If it, God forbid, you will be just as lucky. That's my
But
prediction.
maybe with
Um,
the changes, maybe
yeah.
I won't. Maybe I won't have to do that again. Go through
Yeah.
that same
I mean,
that again.
gosh, let's hope
Yeah,
not. So,
yeah,
I mean, I got to say, like, I often walk around and, will feel something in my body and be like, oh, is that a heart attack or is that something else? And I think what I'm hearing from this, right, is that, um, don't ignore those types of things, but, it sounds like,
yeah,
it's a, it is a kind of, it is a persistent feeling unlike you probably have never felt before. You've had one, and an overall sense of. They often talk about how when people are having heart attacks, they just get this general feeling that something is wrong. Something's just
yeah.
not right.
So
Like,
I don't think it was my actual teeth, but
yeah,
what I've heard is that you can feel it like when you're having one
yeah,
through the jaw, and that's where I felt the pain the worst, and I just knew like
yeah,
this is something, this is a pretty big deal
hmm,
here.
yeah,
This isn't just some
yeah.
um,
I think my message
muscle
is,
thing.
yeah, I think my message to people is pay attention to your body, go to your doctor,
Try
right?
to be healthy.
Try to be healthy. We're not all
Yeah,
perfect,
No.
like you, Stomping Jen. We can't all be,
Oh, stop it,
but
Saucy.
we can try, right? We can try to do better.
Yeah,
There's all of us can make changes
that's right.
to be better.
absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, I have to ask this question, Jay. Um, so we know that you work for this community access television, and a municipality's media department. You have heart attacks.
Oh my gosh.
What else do you like to do? What do you like to do for fun?
Well, as you know, quite a gamer.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I've always been really into music, and kind of after the heart attack, I don't know. It just makes you think about the things that are important to you, and I really, got back into music after that, and I've been writing again, recording, and even pushing myself to learn a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something I didn't do for so long, so it was nice to kind of reconnect with that, so.
What do you play?
Yeah, you talk to him. I have some music from him here. Let me find it. You keep talking.
What do you play?
So I play bass, guitar, and drums.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been playing since I was 14 or so. But over the past few years, it wasn't something I spent a lot of time doing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been nice to really reconnect with that. And I've been just, I could sit here for hours now and just get lost in it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been nice to have that.
People are so creative.
Keep chatting with him about music. I'm going to find this.
Yeah, I think he's looking for some tracks.
I know what he's looking for. I don't know.
I'm scrolling through all these messages from him about Henry Cavill. He sends me a track. I have a man crush on Henry Cavill. He sends me.
I feel like we've talked about.
He sends
this
me
before.
pictures of Henry.
Do you have a favorite? What kind of music are your influences?
I listen to. I listen to everything. I know that's kind of cliche, but funk is kind of the genre I like most.
Mm-hmm.
I guess as a bass player, you kind of gravitate to some of that stuff because they're so bass line heavy. But bands like Jamiroquai, Level 42 are probably some of my favorites. But yeah, no, I listen to everything. I was the biggest fish head for a while.
You were?
Definitely a metalhead.
I totally did not peg you for a fish head.
Yeah, no, I used to tour, go around on the tours.
Uh-huh.
Then I had kids, so that changed that. But yeah, fun, and just music has always been a huge part of my life. So
I think I got it here. Keep talking. Just 2 more seconds.
I just.
But other than that, no, I just gaming and spending time with my daughters.
Yeah.
So trying to enjoy life a little bit.
Why isn't it playing?
Oh
Hold on.
God.
Just
keep
talking.
Lost in all this technical stuff.
I see it playing, but it's not.
It's not playing
here's
through
why.
the port. Oh, because you had it on mute.
All right, this is some original J-Bar stuff. Now, I want to tell you this, Jay. I revealed your gaming name, Jay.
He said he was going to do it.
Yeah. This is some Jay music. So, I have to tell a story. So,
oh my God.
Jay was like, I'm going to write some music. And I said, we should collaborate. We'll do a song, right?
Yeah.
I was like, send me the music. I got this. I had no idea how to put words to this, Jay. It's some high-level, really technical stuff. It's good, but I don't know how to put a single word to this.
Yeah, I think I was telling you, too. I was just kind of messing around with some different stuff
that
day. Because I had just got some new gear and some recording software. So,
Stomping Jen, we're sitting here with the composer of whatever this is. This is amazing.
Isn't it lovely when somebody describes your music as whatever this is?
No, I'm just joking around with it, but I can definitely feel that funk influence in this.
Yeah,
for sure.
No, I guess I need to spend some more time getting some structured stuff going. It's just just been fun to record some quick loops. And jam.
I mean, I loved it. I loved the energy in it, but I didn't know what to do with it. But it's really good.
I'll get you something a little bit more laid back.
Yeah, I like a strong melody, something I can. What are you looking at?
Too.
Stomping Jen's staring at me like I don't know what I'm saying. What do you think? This is good, right?
Yeah. You could come up with lyrics. It's like a little ska.
What's that thing called? Something setback?
What?
That planning board thing.
What?
The
A
set.
side yard setback?
That's what this song's called.
Side yard setback?
Side yard setback. You gotta put your fence back. You can't have it too close to the road.
That's right. That's what a side yard
Side
setback
yard
is.
setback. You gotta put up barriers. You
Oh, it's
gotta.
changed.
Yeah, here
There you go.
we go.
Oh,
It
this
gets a
is
little
Jamiroquai.
funkier.
Yeah, nice.
I think we got our song, Side Yard Setback. I'm gonna work it. See?
Get that published.
I should be in a band, really.
I think you guys should all collaborate. You guys are all very talented.
Who's you
people.
guys?
Your small council.
No. Oh, she mentioned them. All right. So, Jay, should we reveal your secret? We're not going to reveal your secret.
It's okay.
Right?
Nobody's
Oh, that's
listening.
okay.
Whoever's listening to these episodes
Yeah.
are not listening to those episodes.
So, in early episodes, I was joined by a group of people known as the Small Council, and they all have pseudonyms like myself. I'm Sawtooth Frank, the undisputed leader of the Small Council.
Oh my god.
Right, Jay?
Jay's like, I don't know about that, but sure.
Yeah.
Your show, I'll allow that for you.
He is one hell of a guest. One hell of a guest.
You're gonna go off the rails now.
Okay. So,
Stay on track.
what happened? What was I saying?
Keep it together.
Well-
We're not talking about it. We're listening to the music. that
Well, I was
James
going to
made.
explain something.
You're not going to explain it.
Oh, anyways, Jay is part of the Small Council.
That's all you need to say.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yep. And
And his
'Cause I
music
think
is
this is my
great.
first appearance. I don't think I made it on any of those.
I think
you were on
Yeah,
like
so
one,
it's
I think. You were on
maybe
one.
the very first one. Yeah. It was,
Yeah, you've also not visited us for quite some time.
Well, nobody's
Yeah, I
visiting
miss you guys.
anybody
Yeah, and I
now.
was just in that.
I
I
know.
do get out to that area kind of quite a bit these days.
Yeah,
Yeah. All right. So music is
Yeah.
what you do for fun.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep playing it here in the
Oh,
background.
I love it.
What else did I want to ask you?
He
so
should make our theme song.
I
already did a theme song. Blue, how dare you?
my theme song is amazing. Don't you start with that again.
But how long have you guys been doing this now? It's
Oh
gotta
my
be
god! Well,
almost
94 episodes.
Two
We
years?
do it
Almost
like
2 years.
weekly.
Yeah.
yeah, almost 2 years,
Almost
right?
2
Yeah, I can
years,
remember. Yeah, I can remember when you were like getting
We
the first one going.
podcasters.
Yeah, it's been
when Sawtooth was like, "Let's do a podcast." I'm not going to have any kind of a focus. I'm just going to freewheel it.
I know. It's been, the evolution of this, since we're talking about artistic stuff and music. I mean, it's like anything. It's like art, it evolves. We started off, with just Jen and I, and then I brought in the Small Council, and then I tried.
Well, it was going to be a small council project, and then
Then they-
nobody else had the commitment and the bandwidth for it.
Yeah.
Like you did.
But again, it's,
But that's okay because
it's
it
my
was your project, right?
Yeah.
And then you drug me into it.
Yeah,
Dragged
but
me into it.
like as I've said all along, I think I mean, I don't see this as my podcast. It's our podcast, and I don't even like to sit down behind these mics now without you.
You just like to look at my pretty face.
Well, yes, absolutely. But
No, I think it's great. I think it's great you guys are having success with it, and you committed to it, and
yeah, and
bringing on some guests, and it's great.
and
Yeah, thank you.
thanks. And part of it is, I didn't start it to try to be successful or try to build
Right.
up a following. I just wanted to do this, and because I love listening to podcasts, and I thought maybe we had something to contribute to the medium. So,
Yeah.
but once you get some more J music together, we'll have to have you back on and debut it because
All right.
you are a fantastic guest.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Now, I can't wait. I do have to say, there was some controversy around Jay's
Controversy?
appearance here. One of our other small council members, who's known as Vape Ape, claims he is J-Bar's exclusive entertainment agent, and tried to prevent this appearance. So, yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy that we were able to arrange this.
Well, I'm super thrilled because I really wanted to learn more about community television, telemedia, and municipality television.
Yeah,
So I learned a lot.
We have to
Thank
ask the
you.
final question. We've been asking this of all of our guests as of late. Have you ever seen anything you cannot explain? It could be supernatural. It could be anything else. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
It could be a ghost.
Yeah, I think
could
I've
be,
seen some crazy stuff in the sky that it just didn't look like a plane. And with all this UFO stuff coming out soon.
Oh, sit down. You ready for another 3 hours?
No,
because
we're not going to go there.
Oh, we're going there.
We're not going there.
All right, fine.
You can bring that to your you can bring that to your small council sessions.
No, I mean, all we'll say is we have crossed the line from theory into fact.
So we really need to find Sawtooth a guest, and I really don't want to be part of that conversation. That is an expert. So out there, world, if you're interested in discussing this topic, please contact us.
How dare you? All right. So Jay has seen unexplained phenomena in the sky.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So I think this might be the end.
Yeah.
What else do we want to say?
I don't know.
Just thank you again. This was great. I really enjoyed this. And I have to say, I said this to you on chat. You know, I'm so glad you made it through that experience. You know, I love you as a friend. I love you as a person. I'm glad you're here with us, and we can continue
having this conversation.
Continue abusing each other in chats.
All right, let's not go down that route.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Stomping Jen, anything else?
No. Stay safe, wear a mask.
And to our listeners, I must also spread the love. We love you, listeners. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll see you next week. I think we have a really awesome guest lined up, but we won't say who they are.
Oh.
Yeah. Let me think of
I got the next 2 weeks lined
up. Yeah. So we have some really good stuff coming your way, okay?
Cool.
All right, bye, everyone. Stomping Jen, we love you. What do you want to say?
Bye now.
Bye now.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. America knows that this world of ours, ever growing smaller, must avoid becoming a community of dreadful fear and hate. Those who have freedom will understand also its heavy responsibility. That all who are insensitive to the needs of others will learn charity, and that the sources, scourges of poverty, disease, and ignorance will be made disappear from the earth. And that in the goodness of time, all peoples will come to live together in a peace guaranteed